As we wrap up this course, let's put it all together in Module 7. This timeline is from a Guide to Secondary Transition Assessment in Washington State by Johnson and is provided as an example. Developing a secondary transition assessment timeline or checklist helps teams follow certain milestones that should be completed related to the types and levels of assessment occurring during secondary transition. Most often, timelines begin in middle school and continue through each of the high school grades, and if appropriate, as part of post-high programs. Review the different types of assessments we see in these early grades: identifying interests and learning styles, beginning career exploration, assessing aptitudes, creating and adjusting courses of study along the way. As we continue the timeline, consider how assessments have changed from the earlier grades to these final grades. Student assessments and experiences focus less on exploration as they approach their transition to adult life and more on gaining experience and skills. For example, we're beginning to focus on work experience and/or technical training, applying to outside agencies, and continuing work experience, technical training, and writing a summary of performance at exit. Here are a few takeaways on post-secondary transition assessments. Become familiar with various secondary transition assessments for students with disabilities. There are multiple resources for this on the Transition Assessments Padlet created by USBE, and many schools have a transition assessment toolkit to be used by their educators. Secondary transition assessment results should drive the students with disabilities post-secondary goals, secondary transition services, and secondary transition IEP goals. Secondary transition assessments for students with disabilities are a process that is ongoing, student-centered, and student-driven. And finally, secondary transition assessments for students with disabilities should be individualized and address all 4 areas of the SPINS. Consider these continued takeaways as you leave this course. Use the guiding questions discussed earlier to help determine what information you need to gather around secondary transition assessment for each of your students. Ask the question, have I addressed all of the students' SPINS through the assessments given? Summarize the secondary transition assessment data and use that to develop the post-secondary goals with the student and determine their individualized secondary transition service needs. Remember the lenses. Think of assessments as lenses through which you see your students in the areas of education and training, employment, and independent living. Finally, consider this quote from actress Lauren Potter. "A long time ago when I was very little, I dreamed about being on stage. Some people told me I would never be able to do it, so I only paid attention to those who told me that I could." We want to encourage our students to dream big. Secondary transition assessment is an opportunity for students to share their dreams and aspirations for the future. Our work is not to limit those dreams, but to help them work toward making those dreams a reality.